Esteemed audience, thank you for tuning into the show that gives you the best of high school debates. This is the Great Debaters Contest Season 9, the final of Coast Region, Mombasa County. I am your host, Chris Boro.
And I am Esperantia Kapanga. In today's debate, the determining motion is a remunerated package should be introduced for housewives.
It's quite ironical that our proposers are gentlemen from Allidina Vestram.
And in the opposition, we have ladies from Ngina Girls High School. Let's see who will win the battle of the sexes today.
Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes to make your submissions.
Members of the House, lady and gentlemen of the jury. I remember one time my mother asking my younger sister, "What would you like to become when you grow up?" And my younger sister replied, "I would like to become like my father." Simply because my father works harder than you do. And simply because his work is more fancy than you do. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stephen Tayari from Allidina Vestram. In the words of one of the most successful business people on the planet Earth, Richard Branson, in his book The Virgin Way, when he said, "Prasta e praesto," meaning I stand firm and I stand fast, to propose the motion that states, a remunerated package should be introduced for housewives. A remuneration, this is a pay for work done. A package, this is a set of proposals or terms offered or agreed as a whole. Should, used as an obligation or a state of showing that something has to be done. To introduce, this is to bring about into existence. A housewife, this is a married woman who does not work outside the house. Let's get down to the business of the day and what I'm going to be talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, housewives are the number one caregivers of the society. Let me start by saying one thing. The housewives are caretakers of divine property. Their children, the people who come through them, and they have to take good care of them, and leave alone the children, but also their husbands and their male counterparts, ladies and gentlemen. According to www.caregiver.com, most housewives with long-term needs, approximately 65% of them rely exclusively on family members and friends for assistance. Tell me, how long do you think a friend is going to help you? You'll become a thorn in their flesh every time nagging them about funds, every time nagging them about your needs, ladies and gentlemen. But if they're given a remuneration, trust me, that burden of disturbing people in the name of asking for assistance is going to be over. And trust me, if you become a piece of meat off someone's nose, that is something that will make you have a very negative attitude towards that person, because the person will not be ready to be helping you all the time. Let me ask you one question. How many times have you seen videos of children being beaten up by housewives simply because their parents are not there, they are working? Instead of them being housewives and being given a remuneration package for them to stay at home and take good care of their children. I'm 100% sure that no one of us in this hall wants their child to undergo such a thing. Therefore, the government should offer a remuneration package for housewives for such a thing to be curbed. Although men also provide assistance, female caregivers may spend almost 50% of their time taking good care of the people. Why shouldn't they be paid? While they take most of their time taking care of people. As I started, I said that women are caretakers of divine property. Ladies and gentlemen, side proposition is my portion. I rest my case.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your submissions.
The main question is, should our mothers, sisters, and daughters be paid for what they do for our families? My name is Daisy Achieng Oko from Ngina Girls, the cream of the nation. So, a remunerated package should be introduced for housewives. A remunerated package includes salary or wages, but may also contain other supplements like rewards and allowances. Example, you have cars, telephones, houses. And then working out a good remuneration package will help attract and retain and also encourage the right employees. A housewife is a married woman who chooses not to work outside the home. And I mean, who chooses not to work outside the home for money and devotes all her time, energy, and love towards maintaining her house and making it a careful, to make it a clean, safe, and warm house, and also a warm environment. So why do we say that these women should not be offered with a remunerated package? As I said, a remunerated package is a good incentive to the right employees. So the moment you start paying your housewives, you do not understand the difference between a housewife and a maid. So the moment you bring in a maid into your house, the maid will be no different from a housewife. Because at the end of every month, what do? You pay your maids. And at the end of every month, you're paying your who? Your housewives. So this will bring about to the demeaning of the housewives. Because one, the middle class women, they tend to stand in queues for water. While the upper class, the water is just in the houses. But who will be paid more? The women in the upper class will be paid more by their well-paid husbands, while the ones in the lower class will be paid less. But who works more? The women in the middle class. So the moment you offer a remunerated package, it's like you're telling the women who want to get married to the men of the middle class, don't get married, because that is an investment and you will not be paid accordingly. So the moment you make this remunerated package a policy that you want to uphold in your different houses, then remember this, you're turning a loving relationship into an employment. You're turning it. You're seriously turning this loving relationship that you chose at the beginning of your marriage term that, hey, I will take you in health and in favor and in anything you do. I will love you and I will cherish you. So when you take this woman into your house and you want to pay her every month, you're turning that into an employment. And you will reach the point where you as a husband is broke. But the woman will not understand because you started. If you do not want anything to continue, then don't start it. If you start paying women, if you start paying our mothers, our sisters, our daughters for taking care of us, imagine this, you're paying your mother every month for staying with for cleaning your house. You're paying your sister for taking care of you. You're paying our grandparents for playing with their grandchildren. It's just unthought of. Even the money will not have any difference. But let me tell you this. At the moment, if I decide to pay my mother, do you know she will feel the difference? Because women are not paid aimlessly. The love they show, the affection, even the respect that they give us is not worth the money. It's not on monetary value compensation. It cannot be compensated. It is way too much. It is valueless. So women should not be remunerated. Or a remuneration package should not be introduced for women. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
From what the opponent's first speaker, she defined the package as the remunerated package as a gift or a token that is given to somebody. So let me ask you this question. When you give your mother or when your father gives a gift to your mother, is that not a gift? When your father decides to bring a gift home for your mother after work, is she not being appreciated for the work that she's doing at home? You also spoke about some of the middle class housewives will be paid less. Let me tell you this day, you can only eat, or a goat can only eat according to the length of the rope that it is tied with. So when you know that your husband is paid less, then you also expect that the husband is also going to give you less. So you can only eat according to the length of your rope. You also said that marriage, when people start giving remuneration services to the housewives, it will turn into an employment. But let me tell you that's a false fact. Because once of all, marriage is a contract. The day you sign to each other that I'm going to love you in sickness and in health, in poverty and in riches, you are dating into a contract. What does it mean? Whatever the outcome of your marriage is, you need to appreciate each other. And so if you give that person the gift, it will not be a form of employment, but appreciation which you chose to abide with when you're getting married. Our mothers, when you give them the remuneration services or the tokens, we are going to deal with the standard development goals, that is the SDG goal number 5 and 10, which is to end gender inequality. When you give these remuneration services or packages to our mothers back at home, they will be economically empowered. And the basis point to make somebody aware of something is to give them empowerment. What do I mean? Once you give them the remuneration packages, They will be empowered. They can be able to stand on their own. They can be able to be independent even without depending on their husbands. What will happen if one day the husband dies? What will happen if one day the husband fails to come home early and bring food? What will happen? Will the children sleep hungry because there's no money? But remember that if they're provided with the remuneration services, they can actually save and be empowered. And when these catastrophes happen, they can be able to stand up for their families. They can be able to stand up for their children and ensure that they're well prepared and well taken care of. Marriage, just like any other hazardous institution, marriage is also an institution. It's recognized in the Constitution of Kenya. And that's why when somebody gets married illegally, the government requests that that person must have a contract signed by the Attorney General. So just as the men outside there go through intimidation, they also go through the physical challenges while working. Our mothers also experience the same. They burn so many times while cooking. They cut themselves so many times while cutting vegetables. So with that fact, I strongly propose that we should give these mothers or the housewives remuneration packages. I raise my case.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Chicken is sweet when once eaten, but when you do it recurrently, it loses taste. Our first speaker said, housewives beating their children. Do you really know what you're saying? Housewives are their mothers. Of course, they might be beating them because they've done a mistake or something. They're being punished for that. So if housewives are beating their children, what is the problem? The second speaker said that if women are paid, they are going to become independent. But I want to tell you this. Women are going to be paid by their husbands. So how are they going to be independent? I mean, they'll still be depending on their husbands. So let us not make being a housewife a job opportunity. It's a choice. Nobody forces anyone to become a housewife. From the definition of our first speaker, she clearly said, housewife is a married woman who decides or who makes her own choice to care for her family. So it's her choice, and choices have consequences. Let us also consider the nuns. Not everyone wants to become a housewife. So if you say housewives, all housewives are going to be introduced to a remunerated package where they're going to be given allowances and salary, what about the nuns? Number 2, it also destroys the basis of marriage. Marriage is based on love, not how much you can pay. I might love somebody who is down there. You might love somebody who is up there. So if we introduce a remunerated package where the husband is supposed to pay, how are we going to survive? I mean, when we introduce this remunerated package for housewives, there will obviously a committee will be formed to check if they are being paid equally. So how are we going to do it? We have to answer that, our proposers. A remunerated package should instead be introduced to widows. Widows suffer a lot. They lack that love from their husbands. They are the ones who deserve more. Look at housewives. They are being given everything, you know. They are housed. They are given food. They have the love for their family. Having love for your husband and your family is so important. So instead, widows are the ones who should be considered. We have to see that the ones who are suffering more. Also, I want to ask you, if housewives are going to be paid because they care for the house, you know, they do all the households, just as the first speaker said, then I think even me as an elder sister, I should be paid for caring for my little sister. And the grandfather, my own grandfather, should also be paid for playing with me, you know? That is what we are going to. What kind of society is this when we are paying for services that are invaluable? You know, services that you cannot pay for. Can you pay your mother? Do you think there's anything that can pay your mother? Please think. Our dear proposers, I think you also have mothers. Do you think there's anything on this earth that can pay your mother? I'm Naima Abdinur from Ngina Girls High School, strongly opposing the motion that states a remunerated package should be introduced to housewives. I rest my case.
For For the question session, the proposers have been asked, won't introducing a remuneration package lead to silence about cases of gender-based violence where a husband is the one paying the wife, but then he is also abusing her? The opposers have been asked, if we're not going to introduce a remunerated package for housewives, then how else can we appreciate their efforts in our homes? Third proposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
To answer the question posed to the proposers, I believe my team and I do not say that husbands should be the one paying their wives. Just like any other job that has to go through policies, it has to go through checks by the government. It's the government's responsibility to pay the wives, housewives per se, not the husband's responsibility, because it's so obvious. If a husband pays the wife, then he will abuse her. Okay, first, let's get down to the business at hand. First of all, a mother is the greatest job that one can possess. They give birth to me and you. They've given birth to the world's greatest leader. I'll give you an example of Abraham Lincoln. That guy was chased from school because his teacher thought he was dumb. But when he got home, you know what the mother told him? My son, you are the greatest person you can ever be. And just those simple words made him to be the greatest president of the United States. So don't you think that mothers or housewives should be paid? The second proposer talked about the fact that we should not pay housewives simply because they are mothers. It's a marriage, it's an institution. I'll tell you this. You are not going to pay sisters. The motion clearly states they are going to be paid to housewives, not sisters, not elderly, not your grandparents. It stresses on the fact that you're going to pay housewives. So until you become a housewife, you will not get that money. I'll go first to one of the strongest points that I have. The moral fabric of a society depends on the housewives, ladies and gentlemen. How do you expect to have great people when the people that actually look after them are weak? You won't. But because our mothers, our housewives who stay at home, give up their economic right to work and actually take care of the children, give rise to the greatest men that we have in this world today. Ladies and gentlemen, another fact is, just like you choose to be employed, it's an option. You can either choose to be employed or not to be employed. You can also choose to be a mother or a housewife or choose not to be. But if you choose to be a housewife, it's your right that you need to be paid by the government because you raise the citizens of that country. So it is a right that should be implemented by government simply because you raise the citizens that are going to determine the country's fate. Another fact is that it creates a sense of independence, ladies and gentlemen. Because we believe if these policies are set down, first of all, there will be policies that will go through stringent measures to take care of housewives. And by doing so, gender violence, as they say, will not be reduced. I actually beg to differ because it will be reduced. Before you get paid, they will have to go through checks and see if everything is fine. And if nothing is fine, ladies and gentlemen, then you don't get paid. But if everything is fine and there's no gender-based violence that has gone on, you get paid. So I believe my team and I are strongly proposing that the husbands are not going to pay the housewives. The housewives are going to be paid by the government because, ladies and gentlemen, the moral fabric of a society simply depends on our mothers. It doesn't depend on anyone else. Fathers go out and work, but mothers are the ones that raise me and you for our fate of our countries, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
You know, you spoke here for almost 3 minutes, but you emphasized on mother. Read the motion. A remunerated package should be introduced to housewives. We are speaking of the housewives. Don't bring mothers. Not all mothers are housewives, right? Judge Nancy is a mother, and she's not a housewife. So does she need the remuneration package, as you say? Now, just to answer your question, another alternative for remunerated package is reciprocate the love, care, and uncomplaining attention with respect and dignity. Now, the moral fabrics of a society depends on a mother, but you're speaking for the housewife. You know, let's not generalize the motion. You know, this third speaker came here, he was so cute. I was almost blushing. But I can just imagine if I'm a housewife, this is how the voice will be. I, Phoebe Kadzo, take you, Omar, in
in love, poor and riches, till remuneration do us part. You know, that is where, that is what you're trying to tell me. That if the government cannot provide remuneration for me, then I cannot be a housewife. I cannot be a participating housewife. Right now, the participation of a housewife will be determined by the remuneration each housewife will get. Let me tell you, in each home, there's a different system. There's a housewife with a housemaid. Then there's the housewife without a housemaid. Do you want to categorize all this into one group? You're bringing complications in Kenya. We are trying to cut off our budget for goodness sake. The debts in China are increasing, and you want also the housewife to be paid. For me, my mother, the love I give her is enough. I don't need any amount of money to pay her. And even the little respect and dignity I give her each day is enough. So don't tell me a remuneration package will determine, she'll be introduced to housewife to determine their participation. Let me tell you, cultural rights, different religions have different participation of women working. Now, if you put remuneration for housewives, it will be a form of employment. You'll be going against other religions. Now, do you want those men from those religions not to marry just because the spouse might end up being a housewife? Be a solution to your spouse, not the cause to your spouse's stress. Be a solution to your spouse's stress, not the cause to your spouse's stress. This is what I'm giving today. The household is catered by the mother, the father. Gender equality, SDG number 5, gender equity. We are promoting housewives by giving them a remuneration. We are creating employment in that sector. So encouraging many people to be housewives. And yet you are fighting gender equity. How about you speak of working places, engineering, medicine, be like Esperanza. Just encourage people to nurture into the field of medicine. But now you speak of housewife and greatly support it. Then you want to support SDG number 5. I rest my case. My name is Phoebe Kadzo from Mama Ngina Girls, strongly proposing the motion. Thank you.
Proposers, you have 1 minute to give your final submission.
Members of the House, that was one of the most exciting wedding vow I've ever had in my entire life. But the issue is, we are not talking about wives being paid. We said housewives. And as I started, I said that housewives are caretakers of divine property, ladies and gentlemen. The opponents are talking about women being paid by their husbands. Husbands only give them a token of trust and appreciation. The Remuneration Act is done by the government. So they should be given the remuneration in order for them to cater for their family needs. So my team and I have given you the enough evidence and illustrations as to why they should be given the remuneration package. So members of the House, I beg of you, do not be deceived by the things what the opponents are saying. And ladies and gentlemen, Allidina Visram, proposition is the portion of the day. I rest my case.
Opposers, you have 1 minute to give your final submission.
If the government was to pay the wives, the housewives, as they say, then you know the kind of government we have. Strikes everywhere. Imagine your wife striking in your house because of not being remunerated. We are bringing in a new cause of conflict in our families. We already have enough. These remuneration packages, I'm assuring you, we live in a world that is imperfect. Not everything is perfect. So the moment we introduce this policy, then we're also introducing a new conflict in the houses, and we're implementing it by our debates here. So the thing is this: remunerated packages should not be given to housewives. It should not. Because we feel this is just like making marriages, which are holy institutions, and turning them into employments. We feel like this is investing once more. You know, as my partner said, chicken is not chicken unless it's once eaten. So we say of giving gifts, it's not a problem. Remuneration package is a continuous thing. So if you're saying about gifting or giving a gift to your parent, it's fine, it's understandable. That is not a remuneration package. Thank you.
Stephen, the anecdote you gave about your sister, I expected you to relate it to the motion. It was not done. And then, as a first speaker, I equally expected you to give us examples of countries where this is working. Because if you have this motion, the first thing you actually do is to search where this thing is happening. So that did not come out well. Jeremiah, you did a very good rebuttaling. The goat analogy, it can only eat according to the size of the length of the rope. That was equally good. You had coherent arguments raised. You have this convincing, passionate voice. Omar, I liked the aspect you brought of government policy, that it is going to be through government and not husbands doing it. That was very good. It made you stand out. And then it could have actually been a very good point for the first speaker. You had very good use of verbal and nonverbal cues. You're very passionate, but then you need to be time conscious as a debater. Time is very, very important.
To the ladies from the other end, I have questions for you. There are so many arguments that women are still most productive in the workplaces, all right? That organizations that have more women end up even becoming more productive. There's a lot of research papers on that. You could have taken any of them to prove that we need women in the workplaces and not stay-home moms. Are we together? Instead of thinking about paying them, let them get to the productive places where we have them. And I'm saying this still in appreciation of the remarks that you gave. There is an element about laziness, because consider a housewife who has just one child versus a housewife with 7 kids who requires more remuneration. I mean, so you could bring that out as well, okay? There is an element where we are saying that there are great women leaders, even presidents, who are mothers as well, but are still working and leading nations. Why do we need to remunerate others? So I'm trying to say there could have been a way of bringing this motion even way better. And so based on that and the arguments that you gave, we had to look at the strong points and the others. So I would say this, just be ready for surprises. And I wish you well, both teams.